Welcome to Rock Your Reinvention, where I help high-achieving career women like you get unstuck, make your corporate exit strategy, and successfully transition to your next chapter. Hi, I'm your host, Karen Freeland, a certified life coach and corporate exit strategist. Whether you want to start a business, become a speaker, or something else, I'm here to give you the tools and strategies to shift your mindset, build your confidence, and take bold actions so you can rock your reinvention. Ready? Let's go. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Rock Your Reinvention. I am so excited for today's guest. She is a former coworker of mine who has really become a friend over the years and is an inspiration to everyone who knows her. Heather Boschke is a strategic marketing leader and the founder of Vogel Venture. She's passionate about helping brands connect to customers in a meaningful way. She's also an adjunct professor at Metro State University in Minnesota, a bird lover, author, and artist who has published a series of children's books, which we're going to talk about a little later in the show. Without further ado, welcome to Rock Your Reinvention, Heather.
Hi, Karen.
Hi, dear. It's so good to see you.
Thank you for having me. This is going to be so fun.
This is going to be so fun because you have such an inspirational story. And just like, I love having everyday women on who are doing awesome things because it just makes it so much more attainable for the rest of us.
Yes,
you know,
yes.
We all started in the same place. We all started in corporate, grinding it out, slugging it out in our jobs. And then we had this defining moment that has completely changed the trajectory. That's a great place to start. I'd love to hear about your defining moment that got you to where you are today.
There was definitely a year, and whether it was a big moment or just as I look back, there were little signs along the way, but the year for me was 2019. And I don't know if that was also because it was the year before I turned 40, and there is something beautiful and magical that happens as women ascend into their power, which is what happens when we age. And I got the job I thought that I always wanted. I was a VP of marketing, and it was a very grindy job. You know, it was calls on the weekends. It was 70-hour work weeks. And I do remember one particular weekly meeting that was 2.5 hours long when I could feel my soul float above my body. And I could just, what are you doing with your life? You are literally losing your life sitting in these meetings. And so that was a bit of a moment because that has never happened to me before, where I just felt myself detach. And we had a new CEO come in. He got rid of the leadership team. So I ended up getting let go of that job. And the lesson there was kind of never again. I never again wanted to show up and let work become the whole pie. And so 2019, when I had that, I call it the summer of Heather, I had a gift of a layoff, and it just changed everything. And it is really when I realized I am so much more than my title, and I am so much more than what I get paid to do.
Oh, that is so beautiful. And you know, it's interesting because 2019 was kind of my year too. That wasn't actually when I left, but that was when things hit a fever pitch for me. And so I don't know if there was some other stuff going on with the moons, but that was right before my 40th birthday.
I love that.
So I love that you say ascending into our power because I believe that, ladies, we are aging whether we like it or not. So let's just enjoy the journey and not resist what is actually happening to us.
I love that. Because what's the alternative? We want to be around so that we can change things and make things better. And yes, and yes.
Yes. Let's talk about fear, though, because I think, especially when you have that security, and I'll use air quotes because there's really no security, as we've both seen. We've both been impacted by layoffs in a corporate job. But what fears did you have around leaving that six-figure paycheck and starting your own business? And how did you overcome those?
Well, I didn't really intentionally get into fractional work or owning my own business. It was not the plan. So I feel like I've gotten the gift of being let go so many times in my career. So I've been tossed off the wheel 4 different times. And so with that comes the knowing that it's like a haircut. The hair is going to grow back. I'll get another job. So I've kind of always approached work with a little bit of I'll just go get another job because I've always been able to do that. And so when I got fired for hopefully the last time in 2021, I was just having conversations with people in the attempts to find another W-2 job. And 3 or 4 conversations ended with, well, can we just pay you to help us with marketing? it was like, no, I'm not doing that. And then the second time it was like, well, let me think about that. And then the third time was like, yes, you can pay me to help you with marketing. And my internal thought process was, let's try this. I have demand. There are people willing to pay me. And when I don't have clients in 6 months, I will just go get a regular job. And so I went into it with no expectations. And I do think that has been the key to all of this. If I went out trying to do my own thing and run a business, I would have overanalyzed, overplanned, and screwed it up in 15 ways. This was a test. This was like, why not try this? And it has been the best surprise. I am having so much fun. And I think that doing your own thing gives you an amazing opportunity to unapologetically show up as yourself. Because in corporate, as you know, we've had to put ourselves in little boxes. And I was thinking about this conversation, Karen, and I don't remember if I ever told you this, but at Verizon, I had gotten a promotion and my new boss sat down with me and said, okay, so I gave you this new role and, I've heard you're kind of a pain in the ass, but you get the job done. So don't let me down. And I was so shocked. And I just remember thinking, why am I a pain in the ass? Do I ask too many questions? Do I speak up too much? And so I feel like for so long in corporate, I just straddled that tightrope of get the job done and don't be a pain in the ass. And so I don't think I ever got to just be myself, which I feel like I get to do now.
Wow. No, I don't think you ever shared that with me. And I could tell you 100 stories from myself and other women that I've talked to that have had very similar situations. So it is rampant, right? That we are just forced to become someone else if we want to play their game. Yeah. So I love that you were like, you know what? I'm not playing this game anymore. Bye-bye. I'm going to go do my own thing. Yeah. I don't think you could have screwed it up because you're just talented. You're tenacious. Like you don't give up. I know you would have made it work, but I do think that you are so spot on about having expectations because that is one of the big traps I see in the entrepreneurs that I coach is they're like, but I should have more likes on this post. I should have more clients by now. Right. And they have all these expectations. And when they don't happen, they just automatically assume that they're a failure.
Yes, we do that to ourselves and without expectations. And if we just started to approach life as one big test, let's see what happens. And if you like, and I feel like the biggest key is, do you like it or not? Are you enjoying what you're doing? Because part of me, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to enjoy this. I happen to really love it. But if I didn't, I for sure had the license to go back into a job and get paid by someone else. Like that is always an option. Like whether I call it my safety net, I always go to worst case scenario. And it's like worst case scenario, I just go get a job somewhere. And that's fine too. And if that's the worst case scenario, life is fine. You know what I mean? Like I think we just put so many of these expectations on ourselves and also getting kicked off the wheel, being really clear that I am not how much I'm paid, that also opens things up for work to just be this thing that you make money. Like I love marketing. I love my clients, but it's one part of the many parts that make me who I am.
Yeah. And actually, that might be a great segue. I wanted to talk to you about your Success Scorecard. And I heard you present about this on a happy hour once, and it was just so simple, but it made so much sense. So can you tell us a little bit more about what this is and how it works?
There's that quote by Joseph Campbell, and it's something like, if the path before you is clear, you're probably on someone else's. And I find that quote to be so radical, but it's so simple. And yet all of us have grown up with the path being clear. Of course you're going to college. Of course you're getting a job. Of course you're going to get married. Of course you're going to have kids. There's all these boxes that someone else has presented in front of us that they've deemed worthy that we should check. And we get on this wheel, we're doing these things, and hopefully at some point we pause. And a lot of times that happens when people are in transition. That's the pause to say, ooh, do I want to show up like that again? And was I happy with that? And I just think getting the space and time to reflect on, what do you want for your life? How do you define success? And when people start to think about, because it's not the same for everyone, we're all, the boxes that I have to check, part of my Success Scorecard is taking a nap every damn day. And I love it. And it's so like, it makes me happy. And if I'm a happy human, part of my success is I'm taking a daily nap. And so whether that's getting your kids off of the bus at 3:45, whether it's having an early happy hour at 2:00 with your husband, whatever you get to decide and define line. And I think that is the scary part of creating your own scorecard, is that you finally have to look in the mirror, look into your heart, and decide what is it you want. Because as much as people complain about like working for corporate and I've got this plan, some people, that default actually is safe, and it feels, because they know what they need to do. It's like, oh, I know the boxes. And creating your own boxes can be scary because there's no one to tell you if you're doing it right. And by the way, you can't do it wrong because it's your life.
Exactly. And I remember one of the examples you gave, I think was around like working out, but it
Yeah.
wasn't like this regimented, like I have to be to the gym
Yes,
4 times a week. And it was like, I just need to move my
that's
body
right.
for 45 minutes, X number of times a week. And I was like, oh, there's so much freedom in that,
Yes.
because it could be a yoga class. It could be going to the gym. It could be doing floor bar at home. Or like there's so many
Yes.
options. So there's freedom in the structure, which I love.
Yes. And that's so important, because if I said I have to do yoga every day, at some point, yoga would feel like that vegetable that I don't want to eat anymore. So moving my body becomes, maybe I take a walk, maybe I do yoga, maybe I do a dance class, maybe whatever that is, it just, what does move your body mean? And then I get to find play in that, which is also really fun. Like, I have found getting out of that corporate structure, like, I don't know if I like structure at all. And there's a bit of that like rebel with a small r that I think I've found in myself. Because when we realize that we can actually make our own rules, that becomes so much fun and so energizing.
Yeah, it is a little scary at first, because
Yes.
you're like, wait a second. You mean I can spend my morning like
Yes.
gardening and drinking my coffee slowly and not inhaling this, and
Yes.
maybe doing a prayer time or reading a devotional? Like, okay, this is wild. You mean I don't have to start my day until 10 a.m.? Oh my gosh. Like, and then sometimes, I don't know about you, but I have those feelings creep in. Like, am I a real business owner? Should I be working harder? Right. And then I
Yes.
have to remind myself, like, no, that's okay. You wrote your own rules. This totally works for you.
Yes. And getting off the hamster wheel. Like, and I will say, my first year in business, it was great because I made more money than I've ever made. And that I feel like I needed to do that to prove something to myself that I could do it, because it was a test. I was like, I don't know if this is going to work. And I also realized I don't want to work that hard. I don't want to work that hard. And being
Yes.
okay with, guess what? I don't take meetings before 9. And guess what? On Fridays, my last thing will happen at noon. Like, getting really clear. And maybe some days my calendar is blank. And at first, that's kind of an anxiety inducing sight. And now it's more anxiety inducing when I'm like, damn it, I've got 5 meetings today. Why did I do that to myself? And so we really have to flip the script, because the way we've been brought up in corporate is one way. And that way actually does work for some people. And that's great. But if it doesn't work for you, you have to figure out what does, which means making your own rules, setting your calendar in a way that lets you work when you're best and also rest when you want to, because we don't get that in the corporate world. And I just think as humans, we are better off when, if you're a morning person and your energy is the best from 7 to 9, heads down, get your stuff done. And then in the afternoon, maybe you're doing something lighter, you're listening to a webinar. But work is not usually set up to basically allow your energy to dictate the day. And I
Yeah,
think that's a huge miss.
for sure. Oh my gosh, so good. And I love that you were just like, yeah, I don't want to work that hard,
Yeah.
because I've had similar thoughts. And that's why I never see more than 3 clients in a day, because I'm like, it drains my energy, it drains their, like,
Yes.
I want to be the best for them, you know? So I'm like, no, I can't do more than 3 per day.
I love that boundary and feeling good about that,
Mhm.
because for a long time, oh gosh, I don't want to work that hard almost sounded shameful. Like, how dare I say that? But I've realized, again, if work is one part, if I'm giving that all my energy, I am not lighting up all the other parts that make me who I am. And by the way, out of all the things I do, my work is kind of the least interesting. And I hope that for everyone.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, yeah, no, I hear you. I love that. Ah, see, I knew this was going to be so good. All right, let's
yeah.
talk about, I mean, we just talked a little bit about, realizing, oh, I don't want to work this hard, and having some of those aha moments. But what would you say is the biggest lesson you've learned from your journey becoming an entrepreneur?
I think it's kind of a surprise and a lesson.
Mm.
I mean, the biggest surprise is, my goodness, there is no better journey in self-discovery than being an entrepreneur. I mean, the shadow side, the light side, it all comes out. And some of the stuff that you were like, God, that boss was terrible, or that coworker was annoying, you're like, oh gosh, those things are still happening. I think I'm the problem. And so there's all these things you have to face because it's just you. And so there's just this mirror that's being held up. So that is kind of the most surprising and also very rewarding because it forces you to do some deep work. And then I think kind of what we talked about, I mean, the biggest lesson is there's no rules. There's no right way to do this. I mean, some people might want to keep their corporate structure. Some people might want to have 6 clients in a day. And if that works for them, that's awesome. Other people might say, I can only do one. And so this idea that we make the rules that are best for us has been the biggest lesson. Because then I don't look around at what other people are doing because it doesn't matter because it's my journey and what works best for me is not going to work best for everyone else. And that has been transformative because it does kind of put my blinders on and it's like, eyes on your own road. Because when we walk our unique path, that's when we get our true energy. And we spend a lot of time in social media. You know, we see what everyone else is doing. And it's hard to just kind of stay your own path. But when you realize that, you know what, we're all here to learn our own lessons. And so each journey is unique and different, but they're all important. And so just because you're on chapter, 20 of someone else is on, they're done with their book. I just think that comparison can get really, really dangerous. And when you remember there are no rules, that helps with that. Because oftentimes we're looking at what other people are doing and we're saying, well, should I be doing that? And even like as solos, like I started my business the same time as a good friend who's like got 12 employees now and her business is, and it's amazing. And I've been very clear, like, I don't want employees. I want it to be me. I want to partner with businesses. But knowing your truth helps you be able to cheer your friends on when they skyrocket in those ways without feeling like, should I be doing that? Because the answer is no, I don't want to be doing that.
Yeah. And I've experienced that too, you know, especially being around entrepreneurs in this whole like 7-figure era, right? Everybody needs to be a 7-figure entrepreneur. Yes. And I kept being like, oh my gosh, I'm doing something wrong. But my mission always from day one was to be a boutique life coaching firm and to take one-on-one clients. Like I don't need some crazy big group program. I don't need hundreds of thousands of people in a membership. But there was this time where I felt like, oh, I've got to do all those things. And now I'm doing everything wrong. And it was like, can we just get back to basics? What was your mission? What is your purpose? Run your own race, Karen. And that's how you feel happy and fulfilled in your work.
Yes, that's exactly right. And I think you have to go through that. Though. You have to go through doubting yourself and should I to realize, oh God, no, I'm actually exactly where I'm meant to be. And that's a beautiful place. So it's, you know, we can say these things, but I think you have to go through them to really lock in and get it.
Yeah. And the mirror is a big one. I remember one time, especially even when I first left corporate, you know, I had to call myself a recovering corporate workaholic because I really wasn't still in recovery mode. And I remember one day my husband just going, oh my gosh, the more things change, the more they stay the same. And he was talking about my workaholism because he was like, you said you were going to leave so that you weren't working 24/7. And here you are, you're on calls at night. You're doing this, you're going places on the weekends. And I was, not that he wasn't supportive, but he was just like, this isn't what you said you wanted. And I was like, oh, you're right. So again, like the problem is me. It's me.
Yes. And I love that you've got this amazing accountability partner because I do think who you choose to like share your life with is one of the biggest decisions and most transformative. If you have a partner that supports you, that holds you accountable, that is a beautiful thing because you told him what your values were and he's saying, ooh, I'm not seeing that reflected, which takes strength, that takes such trust. And then it allows you to go, oh God, because we will let ourselves get away with anything.
Yeah.
But when someone calls you on like, wait a minute, you said you were done at noon. Why are you still on the phone? It's like, oh yeah, you're right. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Oh, that was such a good call out. I didn't even think about it that way. There's that accountability piece and it's so powerful. So just out of curiosity, if you were going to do this all over again, you know, get the layoff, start your business, is there anything that you would do differently if you could go back?
I mean, as far as the business goes, no, because I think every year, so I'm in year 4, year 1 was a shit show, worked too much. Year 2, I wanted to get really diligent about a 4-day work week. And then what I realized I did was I was shoving 5 days into 4 days. So I was cheating myself. Year 3, I finally got to the 4-day work week. And now I feel like I'm finally hitting my stride. So like, I feel like every single year was a learning experience. But I think if I could go back and do anything differently, it would be going back in corporate and not taking myself so seriously. I just feel like I didn't have as much fun as I could have had. And I just was so kind of uptight about all of these things that I thought I should do and how I should act. And I even think about like the outfits I would wear, the little pencil skirts with the suit jacket, and just, I feel like I was playing dress up for a lot of it. And so if I could go back and just be like, just loosen up a little bit, like, you're in your 20s, it's going to be fine. Like, have a little bit, like, prioritize fun a little bit more.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And I think some of it was the culture we were in because no one else was
Yes.
having fun. So it was like,
100%.
oh, maybe we're not allowed to have fun. I think some of that got like beat it out of us. That wasn't the right term, but you know what I mean? Like, it was just like ferreted out.
You're right. I'll never forget. And this was at Verizon. I was at my desk because I would like try to, because what was the old adage, like, dress for the job you want, get in before everyone else, leave after everyone leaves. And I was like always in the office by 7 a.m. before everyone else. And I remember at the time, it was like this new woman who started. She was a millennial. So I'm Gen X. She was a millennial. And she came in and like, she came in at like 9 or something. And I'm like, are you serious? I've been sitting here typing at my desk for 2 hours. You come in at 9. And the first thing she does is like go to the kitchen to heat up her like breakfast sandwich. And the more that I was getting mad at her, I was actually like, damn, she's getting it at 9. And the first thing she's doing is making herself breakfast. Yes. Like, I've got something to learn from that. So I think that the younger generation has taught us a lot because as Gen X, because you're my age, yeah, we're Gen X. So like we're sandwiched between the boomers who are like work, 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 work. And the millennials were like, what are we doing all this for? And so we've been able to sort of figure out what's our middle ground. And so I think that the millennials in a lot of ways forced us to look at things. I mean, I was pissed for a while and then it was like, wait a minute, actually, this is a boss move.
Right? I know. I'm like the audacity of these young whippersnappers. And then I'm like, and how do I become one?
Yes. Teach me your ways,
please. And it's so funny that you mentioned outfits. Just, I remember having this horrid Ellie Tahari suit jacket. It was like gray and pink, like plaid tweed or something, and it had these like flower buttons, but I just remember thinking like, this belongs in the C-suite. I'm gonna make it with this outfit.
Oh my gosh, I know.
Just like no. And the first time I wore jeans was around the Apple iPhone launch, probably in like 2015-ish. And I remember calling the marketing VP and going, we say we want to be a tech company. We don't act like one. I'm like, I'm wearing jeans tomorrow. I don't know if this is career suicide or not, but I'm going to do it. And I'm going to wear a blazer and heels though, but I'm going to look professional. And she was like, oh my God. Okay, just do it.
I love that you were like, you kind of like jeans was the hill you were going to die on. And I love that so much. It's like, I'm picking my battle and it's jeans.
Yeah, totally.
Well done. Good for you. I love that you did it because it's so funny and we can laugh now, but at the time that took courage. That took strength. You were sticking your neck out, and as stupid as jeans are, it really was like, I could actually get like I could get in trouble. Someone could change their perception of me because of this, which is wild. Those were the times we were living in.
I hid from the SVP the entire day. I was like, I can't let him see me.
I think that's so, way to go. That's a bold move. I like it.
One bold move to another. You know, it's just like once you start that train going though, you do start to build up courage and you're like, oh wow, nothing happened. It wasn't the end of the world. What other risks could I take?
That's exactly right. That's exactly the lesson, because it's no different than getting let go. You're going to find another job. You do something bold. Nobody dies. And it's like, oh, and then you start taking those micro risks and then you don't even realize this muscle is forming and now it's getting bigger. And so then you start to do things and people are like, how did you take that risk? And you're like, oh, that just felt like the obvious thing to do.
Yeah. Well, speaking of courage and taking some risks, you're also an artist and a published children's book author. Your books are the Little Birdie Buddies, which is so adorable. Tell me about this. What inspired you to follow this passion and take on this project? Because this was a hidden talent. Like nobody knew you drew like all of a sudden one day I see this beautiful artwork on your Instagram and I'm like, did you draw that? What?
Yes, it is wild. Also in the unplanned version of all the things that have happened in life. And this was COVID lockdown. You know, the gift of COVID is that there's so many gifts, a lot of awful things and a lot of gifts. And in the stillness, I can hear little voices in my heart telling me things from time to time. And in that stillness, I could hear the voice in my heart saying, gosh, you know what? You should draw again. You need to draw again. And I did love drawing in middle school. I mean, I'm not trained. I never took art classes beyond like school, but I loved it. Like I remember running to my room after school, getting my colored pencils and just losing myself. And then high school happened and sports and boys and friends, didn't draw, college, work, work, work. And so I had not drawn in 30 years, but this little voice just kept tugging. And so I bought a sketchbook and pens, had no idea what I was going to draw. And I just kind of, I love birds. They're my favorite animal. My grandpa called me Heather Feather. Our first family pet was a little cockatiel. So like I've had this bird thing in my life and I just thought, I'm going to draw a bird. And I drew this little chubby bird. And it was like all of the flow and peace that I remember feeling as a kid all just kind of rushed back. It was like, oh my God, that was so much fun. I had a blank piece of paper. And then like a couple hours later, I had this little character. And so I just started drawing these little chubby birds and then I would always name them. And so without realizing it, I was creating these little characters like Clarence the Cardinal and Bella the Blue Heron. And then because I was looking up pictures of the birds to get their proportions right, I started to learn more about birds. And that's when the idea kind of struck me, like, I think there's a children's book in here because my illustrations, they're cute, they're playful. And then I'm learning so much about birds. And I approached the book thing just like my business, where it was like, I may not like this.
Right.
Why not try this? If no one reads it, again, who cares? Like, I am not an author. I'm not a real artist. These were the things going on in my head.
Right.
It was like, I don't have anything to risk here. And so I wrote my first children's book, Little Birdie Buddies of Minnesota. And it was so much fun. I've loved everything about it. I'm on, let's see, I'll have book number 4 coming out this spring.
Yay!
And I go into classrooms and I do these author visits. And it's just been this most profound source of joy in my life that I never saw coming. I did not plan. And for me, the lesson for everyone is I did not know this was in me. And so I think everyone has their version of little birdie buddies in them where it's like, get still, get quiet. What bubbles up for you? And what could you start to pursue? Because again, I'm not a trained artist. And now I've drawn over 100 birds. I've written these 4 books. And it's like, where did that come from? But it was in here the whole time.
The whole time. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know. I say that all the time. Like, you have everything you need inside of you to make this pivot, to make this transformation, to go after your dreams. And we just don't give ourselves enough credit.
Yes. Yes. I mean, truly, my thought was, I'm not an artist. I'm not like an author. I don't have human children. So why the hell am I writing a children's book? Like, because I remember when I first had the idea, I didn't do anything about it because of the talk track in my head. And when you start to verbalize the dreams in your heart, like when I finally started to say, I think I'm going to write a children's book, all of a sudden the universe puts all the right people and places and opportunities in your path. And one conversation led to another. And all of a sudden it was like, I'm writing this book.
Yes.
So we have to give voice to the dreams in our heart because like, we wouldn't have dreams if we didn't have everything it took to actually fulfill them.
Absolutely. Like, what a cruel joke that would be, right? Like, oh,
Yes.
here, I'm going to place this dream in your heart, from your creator, whatever. Like you get that in there. And then it's like, but just kidding, because I'm not going to give you the skills. Oh, hell no, that doesn't happen.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh, well, we're so glad that you have followed your passion because they are the cutest little books. And I've seen you on the news and, promoting it. And it's just been so fun to watch you bring this to fruition and not have those expectations, but just really enjoy the journey.
Yeah, thank you. And the other lesson I'd say is that, something that started out as something for me, like I had to get this out of me, has turned into so much more because the thing about dreams that we realize is that they're actually not meant for us. Yeah. They're meant to serve. And so I've got to draw, and then it was, no, I've got to get these birds out because they're spreading joy. They're teaching kids, they're getting kids away from screens and out in nature. And it was like, oh, this dream was actually never meant for me. These birds aren't mine. They're for everyone else.
Yeah. It's almost like it starts out for you because it's this like little passion, this little calling, but then there is that moment of clarity where it just kind of opens up and you realize the impact that you're having on so many other people. Well, I can't wait for book 4 to come out because I know that's going to have a big impact too. Now, it wouldn't be Rock Your Reinvention if I didn't ask you the signature question, which is if you could say one thing to the woman listening who knows she wants a change, but maybe she's got that talk track too, and she doesn't know how to get started, what would you say?
I would say if you've got that tingle, if you've got that restlessness, there is a reason why. And I think every single one of us has the seed of awakening inside of us. And that little that restlessness, that tingle, that is your sign that something is about to crack open. And it doesn't have to be this big, like, quit your job and just start having conversations. Like maybe you're like, gosh, you know what? Nursing would be really, go talk to people that have been nurses, go to different schools and learn about their programs. Like you don't have to take dramatic action. Sometimes the smallest step of a conversation starts to get the wheels turning. And so I think we think about reinvention as this big word. Maybe think about it as transformation with a small t,
Yeah.
and have like some little conversations, because once you start learning about different paths, you're going to get lit up, and then it's not going to be scary. You're going to be like, I can't wait to do this.
Yeah, totally. Tap into the tingle. That's what you
Yes.
got to do. I was
Yes,
just
I
going
love
through
that.
my head when you said that. I was like, yes, because it really is
So
there
good.
for a reason. And you can ignore it all you want. I ignored mine for probably 4 years. And then finally,
Yeah.
it was just like everything else, it felt like around me was crumbling. So that was like
Yeah.
the only thing that was left standing up. And it was like, fine, okay, I guess this is where you want me to go. I'll do it. And then that was it. That was it. Right. And it just started, everything started building in that right direction.
Yes, and it doesn't have to make sense. I mean, I think about
Yeah.
you as such a beautiful example of this. You were an actress turned corporate marketer, turned author, turned life coach. And so, like, you could argue that some of those things, like, how does this go to here? But it doesn't have to make sense. But if you've got the longing, like, this is your one precious life. And if you want to continue to sit on the sidelines, you can do that. But just know that that is your choice.
Oh, yes. Wise words. And sometimes we need that tough love, right? This is
Yes.
a choice. And it doesn't
Yeah.
feel like it when you're in the stuck and the mire and the crap. Cause I know, same thing. I was like blaming everybody else. My life was everybody else's fault. And then when you really do hold up the mirror and you realize, oh no, I've chosen this life. Damn, that's a hard pill to
Yes.
swallow. But once it's down,
You
yeah, freedom.
You can choose differently. And we're always like, and I always think about that. We are all one choice away from dramatically changing our lives. Like if I look back and I bought that sketchbook and pens, not knowing that that was going to change my life in a significant way. So that's why those small steps are so important. They're little pathways, and you are one decision away from changing your life in the best way.
Oh, so good. Thank you, Heather, for being here today and sharing all of this wisdom. I know that you're going to leave an indelible mark on everyone who listens to this episode. Where can people find you if they want more, Heather?
Yes, you can find me on LinkedIn. And for my birdies, I do a lot on Instagram. And so it's Little Birdie Buddies on every platform. So you can see my bird drawings and what the little birdies are up to.
Yeah, such an amazing gift. You know, there's holidays coming up, Easter and stuff, but summer, graduation, all those things. Your nieces, your nephews, find a way to gift this book because it's so adorable.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me. This is such a joy. And I love everything you're doing to help uplift women and help us get that mojo going, because it's never lost. We just have to get it back. We just have to remind ourselves of who we are, and the work you're doing helps with that. So thank you.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Thank you so much for being here again. Y'all go check Heather out. Make sure you give her a follow and connect with her and pick up her book. And until next time, stay fabulous. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you're inspired to take action by committing to one of the tips or strategies we talked about in today's episode. If you want more accountability and support, I've got your back. Book a complimentary Empowered Exit Strategy call today. Visit KarenFreeland.com to learn more and book your 45-minute session. Until next time, stay fabulous.